Hello YouTube, how are you? My name's Jude and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing our card predictions for week 3 of Dana White's Contender series. Last week we struggled a bit actually. We went 2 and 3, which isn't great. After starting 4 and 1 on the first week on week 2, we went 2 and 3 because Douglas Rodriguez fumbled to finish. Muhammad Ali is terrible, and because I should have trusted my gut and picked Kaique Brito. Um, that was an insane knockout in the main event of last fight card. I think this one gives us a good opportunity to not go 2 and 3. There was 3 pretty sizable underdogs that got wins last week, and then Roman Puga was a community underdog that got a win. We did get that one right. But we're going to get into week 3 of predictions. I think there are some heavy favorites and some setup fights on this card. I don't think this one is necessarily all that difficult to predict, um, but we shall see. I kind of swallowed my words last week when we ended up going 2 and 3. Um, this week, however, I'm feeling decent about. Our first fight of the night is going to be at middleweight between Nick Galante and Carlos Petrozelli. Um, I wasn't super impressed watching the tape of either guy. Nick Galante's one pro loss is to Brandon Holmes, who will be making his return to Dana White's Contender Series this season. So that's not a bad pro loss by any means. I think Brandon Holmes is pretty good and has a good chance to get a UFC contract this season. I don't remember his matchup off the top of my head, but I remember thinking that he has a decent chance to win. Anyways, back to Nick Galante. He's on a good streak right now. I believe he is on a 5-fight win streak. Majority by finish up until his last fight, which was a bit controversial, but he has a good guillotine choke. He has a good front choke system. So we've seen quite a few of those on his record. This fight, this was some ground and pound he was able to get done in round 3, which is a little later than you'd like him to carry this fight. But he was in control for most of it, showed good wrestling, showed good top control, showed good ground and pound. And then this was a really quick rear naked choke submission in his second most recent fight against this guy, Derek Benoit. He just immediately took his back and was able to sink in a standing rear naked choke in about a minute. But most recently, this fight against Austin Clayton was a bit of a controversial decision, and kind of made me realize, okay, this guy's not a world beater by any means. I didn't really think he was after watching the Brandon Holmes loss, even though, like I said, I think Brandon Holmes is okay. This fight against Austin Clayton, he was doing really good. He almost had this fight done very early. He almost had a guillotine, really tight guillotine in round 1 that his opponent was able to get out of. I think he wins round 2 there as well, but that one's a lot closer than round 1. It's just mainly a grappling fight for the most part throughout the early rounds, and they're kind of going back and forth on the ground. Nick Galante clearly gets pretty tired by round 3 or 4 of this fight. You can start to tell, and he is just getting outdone on the feet and outdone on the ground. He's getting controlled on the ground. And the way that CFFC does it is, this was a 4-round fight, but since it was 2-2, they gave Galante 1 and 2, and Austin Clayton 3 and 4. It went to a 5th round, and that 5th round was also really close. Kind of a little bit of back and forth grappling, but nothing substantial, no damage really at all on either side. So a close round 5. Nick Galante ends up getting the decision win, but just really not a super impressive performance to get a Dana White's Contender Series opportunity in your last regional fight. But then we have Carlos Petrozelli, who you would see 15 and 1, right? He's the number 1 middleweight in Argentina. That's great and all, but outside of the one time he fought in LFA, which is his one loss, he got knocked out badly in the first round, hurt badly, and then knocked out at the end of round 1 by this guy, Joselton Santos, who really isn't anything crazy in his own right. It's just a really bad look because I believe Carlos Petrozelli has 12 of his 14 other fights in this promotion, Samurai Fight House, and he's just fighting terrible, terrible competition in Argentina. I guess I didn't realize the Argentinian regional scene was this bad, but I guess all the good ones go to LFA. Because this Samurai Fight House promotion, he's never fought anybody good in this promotion ever. And he looks dominant. It's mostly first round finishes. It's all finishes. Like, every win on Carlos Petrozella's record is a finish. But this is just terrible competition. Nick Galante would have the same record if he was fighting all this awful competition in Argentina that does not know how to grapple. Carlos Petrozella, also kind of a grappler. I don't think he's as good as Nick Galante, especially early, but I don't think it'll favor him going late either, considering he doesn't have really any experience past round 2. But yeah, I think it's just kind of telling that he loses in LFA, gets knocked out badly, gets embarrassed, loses his undefeated record, and then he goes right back to fighting in Samurai Fight House against guys with near even records, if not below even records. And I don't know. There's nothing that I watched from Carlos Petrozella that made me like, whoa, he's like crazy. It's just the competition that he's fighting is so clearly below him. He is able to get knockouts. He is able to get submissions on the ground. He does have some impressive highlights. I just don't really think it's going to transfer here, because we saw that it didn't transfer when he fought in the LFA. So I think that Nick Galante is going to be the better grappler here, and I think especially early, Nick Galante has a good chance to just put this one away. Carlos Petrozella, not a technical striker. Nick Galante is like an okay striker. He's an okay boxer. But I think this is primarily grappling, because I think Nick Galante is going to shoot early and try to get it done with a submission. And I kind of think he gets it, whether it's a guillotine from Petrozella, like trying to shoot in or make a mistake, or Nick Galante just gets his back. Nick Galante gets the back of his opponent in pretty much every fight. And he has quite a few submissions by a rear naked choke as well. I think he has maybe 1, 2, or 3. I hope it's more than 1 for the sake of my argument. But yeah, I think Nick Galante is going to be able to get this one done by submission. I'm going to say round 1 or round 2. We're going to pick Nick Galante to get that one done. There hasn't been a submission on Dana White's Contender Series this season yet. I think that changes tonight. Or Tuesday night, I guess. And then next we have Ronald Humphrey versus Alexis Miranda, and this is a total setup fight. Like, at the time of me making this, I don't have the odds, but I don't need the odds to make these predictions. I'm honestly feeling pretty confident this week, even though I probably shouldn't after last week. But it's just the UFC, or Dana White's Contender Series this week. It's quite a few setup fights. I'm not necessarily... Hold on, where'd we go? I'm not necessarily super confident in the Galante pick, just because I don't think Nick Galante is anything special. And I'm not necessarily confident in this fight, but I think the other 3 are relatively straightforward setup fights, meant to get the A side into the UFC. And this fight's no different. Ronald Humphrey is a guy who was 4-0 in his professional MMA career, and he was 4-0 in his amateur MMA career, with all wins by knockout. All 8 of his MMA wins are by knockout, and he has nasty hands, but he also has really good wrestling. He's a talented wrestler. He has good takedowns, good slams, good ground and pound on top. He flows really well. But then on the feet, aside from his defense, where he does have some gaps, I'm not worried about these gaps getting exposed by Alexis Miranda, but he does have some gaps in the striking defense. I don't think that's an issue here. He's a really good striker. Yeah, I don't really know what to say more than that. He has a lot of power. He's a patient striker. He's calm in there, and he mixes it up well. And yeah, he backs his opponents up. He's going forward. I like Ronald Humphrey a lot here. He has had, I believe this fight was in CFFC. He got a nasty first round knockout, I'm going to say. And then this fight in LFA, it was another nasty TKO win for Ronald Humphrey. Ronald Humphrey's passing the eye test for me. I like what I've seen from Ronald Humphrey. Alexis Miranda, on the other hand, I don't know why they signed him to Dana White's Contender Series other than to lose. Because his last fight was against this guy, Ricardo Chavez, or Woody, as the commentary called him. This guy was 29 and 25, fighting against Alexis Miranda. This is supposed to be a setup fight for him. I don't even know that he won this fight. It was a split decision, and I could easily see it going to the other guy. The other guy backed him up the whole time, and Alexis Miranda just didn't really do anything on the feet. And then this loss I thought was super telling as well, because he lost 30-27 in this fight, got outstruck on the feet, got outstruck in round 1, got outstruck in round 2, and then got controlled for the entire second half of round 3 against this guy, Anwar Alberto, who isn't like necessarily bad, but it's like, why would you not just sign this guy, I guess, at that point, if you're going to sign one of them? Because these past 2 wins for Alexis Miranda don't prove anything. I think Ronald Humphrey's going to knock him out in round 1. I don't think I have to say too much more. I don't want to disrespect Alexis Miranda, but I just really don't understand this Dana White's Contender Series signing, because I didn't even mention he fought this guy Roman Cordova, who Fabrizio Escarrega also fought, and this guy is just like not an athlete. Roman Cordova, I said he's just a guy. Really not a fighter. He looks like my dad. But yeah, he took him to decision. So I just don't think that Alexis Miranda has any finishing potential. I don't think he's going to make Ronald Humphrey pay for anything. So I think Humphrey's going to be as aggressive as he wants and put Miranda away early. Yeah. Our next fight on the card, we have Sean Clancy Jr. versus Batman Boleto, Gary Boleto. Yeah, this is another one of the ones. You see the Tapology predictions here, 97% are going with Sean Clancy to win. So I won't spoil anything, but I feel like you have a good idea of where this one's going. Sean Clancy, I am kind of skeptical sometimes of Cage Warriors fighters. I don't think it's necessarily like a bad promotion, and I think it's probably better than CES Combat, which is where Gary Boleto was fighting. So this isn't really super applicable to this matchup, but sometimes the Cage Warriors guys come in and they underperform on the Contender Series. But I think Sean Clancy has a good path to victory here. This was a nasty flatline knockout in his last performance in Cage Warriors. This was very early round 2 of that fight. This was early round 2. He got a submission over Italo Gomes. So that's a decent win there for him. He actually does have quite a few submissions on his record. Sean Clancy, solid grappler. I don't think he's going to really make it a point to take this fight to the ground. I don't think Gary Boleto will either. So I think this will primarily be a striking matchup, even though when we talk about Boleto, you'll see that he also has, I believe, more submission wins than he does knockout wins on his record, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, Sean Clancy has 3-round cardio. He has good boxing, good Muay Thai. He mixes it well to the body. Got a body shot knockout here with a hook a couple fights ago in Cage Warriors round 3 against decent opposition. And then this was a super early rear naked choke that he got. Yeah, I do like what I've seen from Sean Clancy Jr. I will be interested to see how he looks at the next level, because I think this one should swing his way. But we'll talk about Batman. We're not just gonna gloss over him. It was really hard to find tape of Gary Boleto, and I don't know why. So I'm not gonna sit here and bullshit like I just watched every fight of Gary Boleto's career. I know he's had 3 fights in BKFC recently. He's won all of those, got a couple knockouts, but I did see him get dropped in BKFC. So this is a guy that does take damage. He has been knocked out in his career by Jeremiah Wells pretty early on, and he got knocked out by Billy Ray Goff as well on the regional scene. Both of those happening in round 1. Sorry, my sinuses were being weird, and I feel like they still are. I feel like I'm talking weird in this video, but we moved past it. Like I said, though, Gary Boleto is a guy that has quite a few submission wins on his record. I don't think that's going to be a path to victory here. Um, this fight, he got hurt against this guy, Bruno Quintanilla. Um, this was just kind of a scrap, and I didn't like the footwork that I saw from Gary Boleto. He just kind of shuffles forward very slowly. He does have pretty quick hands, but I don't love what I saw there. I think he is very open to being kicked to the legs, kicked to the body, and hit with combinations, because this guy Quintanilla was landing some crazy combinations on Gary Boleto that he was able to cover up and survive. But I don't think it will be the same against Sean Clancy. I was just able to see a clip of this win for Gary Boleto on his Instagram. This was a first round knockout, I believe, against a guy that he beat in boxing as well a few years back. Gary Boleto is a guy that has some professional boxing fights as well as the BKFC. The one thing about Sean Clancy, because Gary Boleto does have some decent hands, Sean Clancy's striking defense I don't love. I kind of said it about Ronald Humphrey. I think Sean Clancy's is worse. Sean Clancy leaves his front hand down quite a bit in his fights, and I think eventually he will have to probably learn the hard way why you shouldn't do that in MMA. But I think for now, Sean Clancy is going to be the pick here. I think Sean Clancy is going to be able to put away Gary Boleto. I'm going to say round 2 TKO. I think the first round will be a little bit scrappy, and then I think Sean Clancy can put him away in round 2. But that's going to be round 1, round 2, round 2 TKO for Sean Clancy. And then our co-main event of the evening. This is the fight where it's like I don't know who to pick, because I genuinely think both guys are terrible, and I I don't know. There wasn't a ton of tape to find for this fight either, because Guilherme Uriel's fights are buried on the LFA early prelims. LFA isn't on Fight Pass anymore, so you can't necessarily find those fights super easily. I was able to find quite a few of them. I was able to find the submission win. I was able to find this fight. I was able to find this fight. I was able to find all 5 of these most recent fights, but anything before that I wasn't able to watch. And I did want to see Guilherme Uriel's heel hook finish, because I think he did have a heel hook in LFA. Lost this fight to Lucas Camacho. He dropped him though. He hurt Lucas Camacho twice. He almost had him finished. But then he just completely gassed. He stopped throwing punches. He just stood against the cage, mouth open, waiting to get TKO'd, and Lucas Camacho put him away at the end of round 1. And the cardio is the thing that I hate about Uriel here, because we'll talk about the Hokit fight in a second. But this was a decently impressive win, because this guy Wesley Alec isn't a terrible regional heavyweight, even though they're all kind of not very good. He's 4-1 now. This is his only loss, and it was a decent submission win for Guilherme Uriel. This guy shot in, and he just immediately snatched it up and put him out cold in about 20 seconds. And then this fight against Thiago Silva, he was able to knock him out with a front kick to the body and then right hand combo. It was a really good knockout, actually. Pretty impressive, and then followed up with ground and pound, puts him away. This fight against Josh Hokit on Dana White's Contender Series, you can look at in 2 ways. You can look at as him having 0 success, because he really didn't, and getting put away early round 2 after running out of gas. Or you can look at it as he was able to defend the takedowns of Josh Hokit for about 3.5 minutes of the first round. He was able to look good. He was able to scramble out of some positions, and then gassed. But I don't think either way is too favorable for Guilherme Uriel. I don't think he's going to have to expend as much energy in this fight against Mario Piazon. And then most recently, this fight against Leonardo Fraga, he picked up a quick knockout in LFA, so it doesn't really tell us much. He hasn't had a fight that he's won The only fight that's gone out of round 1 for him was the Josh Hokett fight, and the rest of them end in round 1, win or lose. So that just doesn't make me confident in picking Guilherme Uriel here, because he really has shown bad cardio, and I think if this fight goes over, honestly, a round and a half, it will start to favor Mario Piazon. I don't know why the UFC re-signed Mario Piazon either, because this fight against Saladkin on Dana White's Contender Series, he was literally kind of just holding against the cage, holding on the ground like a little bit. He was able to get a little bit of wrestling off, but it was terribly boring for the first 2 rounds. And then Saladkin should have got a legitimate knockout here, because this was at the time where the illegal knee rule was like you can't bear weight on your hand and have like a hand as your post, and be kneed on the ground. He did have like his fingertips on the ground. I don't really think it was bearing weight, and Saladkin put him away with 2 knees to the head in a position up against the cage at the very start of round 3, but he ends up getting a DQ win. Obviously, they don't end up signing him, because even before that, even before he got knocked out, basically, the fight was terrible. It was just him trying to hold the other guy against the cage and the other guy trying to hold him, and there wasn't really any striking that we saw of note in that fight. It was just a terrible fight to watch upon rewatch. He's fought this guy twice now in the past 4 fights, Andre Vieira, on the regional scene. This first time he was able to knock him out. The second time it was a boring decision where he got his legs picked apart the whole time. This guy, Andre Vieira, was really just a fat regional heavyweight. You could look at the 9-2 record the first time they fought. Trust me, none of those 9 wins are impressive. And then this one's the crown jewel, because he got knocked out in the first round by 15-39 Alex Hunias. He was just kind of plodding around in the middle of the cage, and he got knocked out badly by a fighter who has twice as many losses as he does wins on the Brazilian regional scene at heavyweight. So that's just not something at all that I like to see. I wasn't able to find this fight. Frankly, I don't really care to. But this fight, he really didn't try and wrestle all that much. He wasn't able to get his opponent to the ground and really do anything significant with it. He did try and clinch a little bit like he usually does, but this was primarily striking. And I'm going to be honest, it was a close, boring fight where he got his legs kicked at the whole time. His opponent wasn't really good at mixing it to the head, and he pretty much just only lands leg kicks. But Guilherme Uriel has better leg kicks. He's quick on his feet for a heavyweight. He has lost, I believe, about 10 or 15 pounds since the last time he fought, because in this fight against Leonardo Fraga, I think he weighed in a little bit less, and he definitely looked better. So hopefully that will help out with his cardio. I don't think this fight goes super long. If it does, Piazon probably wins. But I'm going to pick Guilherme Uriel to knock out Mario Piazon in round 1. This is what I hope happens, honestly, not just because I'm picking it, because I don't like Mario Piazon's style. And even if Guilherme Uriel completely death gasses, I don't know if he'll be able to finish him. It'd have to be some sort of ground and pound, or just Guilherme Uriel quitting, really, because Mario Piazon has no submission game. Guilherme Uriel has the better submissions of the two. And honestly, if Mario Piazon starts making mistakes in the grappling, like if he gets hurt, Guilherme Uriel could potentially get him in a submission. There's a chance for that. But I think this one, it goes one of 2 ways. It's either going to be a Guilherme Uriel highlight reel knockout in round 1. It's going to be impressive. It's going to look very quick, because Guilherme Uriel is a quick heavyweight, Mario Piazon is not. Or Guilherme Uriel is going to get tired after trying to finish Mario Piazon and then get held against the cage for round 2 and 3 and lose the decision. But I'm going to lean on the side of Guilherme Uriel, and hopefully Mario Piazon comes out with a different game plan than he had last time on the Contender Series, and he strikes for a little bit, because I think if he does, he gets knocked out. And then our main event of week 3, we have Bellamir versus Alex Apodaca. Um, yeah, this is a squash match. Pretty straightforward. 98% are picking Mir. Um, I do think part of it is name value, but it's also warranted here, I believe. Bellamir's first professional fight happened when she was 17 years old, and she got a decision win. She then fought again, got a quicker naked choke, um, and got a round one armbar. All of her submission wins are in round one. Um, and then, yeah, she did take about 3 years off from MMA because she was wrestling in college and she was doing some UFC BJJ and grappling competitions on the side. She is a national champion, NCAA women's college wrestler, um, I believe at 145 pounds. So she's a very talented wrestler and she's a great grappler as well. Been competing in UFC BJJ, 2-0 in UFC BJJ. Um, and her most recent fight was on the Fury Challenger Series against Stephanie Calderon, and she got a very unorthodox behind her opponent's back Kimura in round one and got the submission win there. Um, so yeah, she's going to be fighting against Alex Apodaca. I think originally this was supposed to be a different matchup for Bellamere, so Apodaca is taking this on a little bit of short notice, and she did lose her professional debut to this lady where she got dropped 2 times in this fight and she lost a decision, and then she got 2 decision wins here, just sort of outstriking her opponents, holding them against the cage, and then this most recent fight was more of the same in Fury. That's kind of just what she does. She doesn't really effectively grapple at all. It's more of just holding her opponents against the cage. She does train out of Tiger Beetle, which is Corey Sandhagen's gym. She does have decent striking. She just has no power. I don't think I've ever seen her hurt one of her opponents. She does have more MMA experience than Bellamere. She does have some amateur fights as well, but that's a double-edged sword because she was submitted in her amateur career not too long ago in Fury by rear naked choke. I think this one is very straightforward. I'm not really going to dwell on it too much more. I just kind of wanted to give its due diligence. Bellamere will have a reach advantage here, pretty significant one. And then I think you could say maybe that she has a striking disadvantage, but Bellamere's striking is serviceable. It's not too bad, honestly, and I think it's good enough, definitely at this level, to get wins, and she won't really need it. I think she'll be able to utilize her wrestling early and get this one done pretty quick with pretty much... There's like several different submissions that she could end up getting. I think Bellamere gets around one submission. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to be picking Bellamere by early sub, round 1 or round 2. Guilherme Uriel by round 1 knockout. Sean Clancy, round 1 or round 2 knockout. Ronald Humphrey, same thing, round 1 or round 2. And then Nick Galante, round 1 or round 2 sub over Carlos Petrozella. So that will be it for my Week 3 predictions for Dana White's Contender Series. I'm going to go watch UFC Sacramento. I will be back next week, probably Friday or Saturday for Week 4 of Dana White's Contender Series. I need to get on top of the tape study. I started up back at college again, so going to be a little bit harder to do my due diligence and tape study, so that's why I've started uploading these videos on Saturday. But thank you guys for watching. Last video for week 2 was my most viewed video ever. We got 300 views on it, and they are way outperforming my regular UFC videos. So thank you guys for watching these videos, and I'll see you next week.